Hello, this is Bob Gray Sr. Welcome to Ministry Moments. Every Friday, Lord willing, at Central Time, not Eastern Time. Central Time, we come with the broadcast of Ministry Moments. If you notice behind me, the conference Fortify 2020, I hope that maybe you'll take time and come and be with us. This is our 5th anniversary at Independent Baptist Online College. And so we're having a Fortify 2020 conference, and that's going to be September the 20th through the 23rd, and it's going to be at the People's Baptist Church in Mansfield, Ohio. So that's my Kmart Blue Light special for today. So write that on your calendar. Come and be with us, and we'll have a great time. I'd like to meet you there if you can. And Independent Baptist Online College we're celebrating our 5th anniversary. And just under 1,500 students. That's a lot of students. And God has been good to us. Our faculty is a faculty of veterans, no less than, in fact, they average over 30 years of ministry. And so you come and be with us. Would you do that? Okay. Now, this is Ministry Moments. I'm going to talk to you today about cantankerous church members. Cantankerous church members. Yes, there is such a word as cantankerous. And it means argumentative, and it means uncooperative. Now, I know you don't have any church members like that, but maybe some churches do. So I want to talk to you and just take notes. If you don't need this now, just salt it away, because one day you will need it. And so we're going to talk about, in Ministry Moments today, we're going to talk about cantankerous church members, those who are argumentative, uncooperative, and how in the world do you handle them? Every year without fail at Longview Baptist Temple, we had one member, not a bad guy, not a bad family. In fact, they were very faithful to all the services. But he would come and see me once a year with a list of mistakes that I made. And so he would come in. Sue was my secretary back then. And she would say to me, "Pastor, you know everybody in this church knows he doesn't like you. And you don't have to see him. You don't need this aggravation." And I said, "No, I've got to see him. I want to see him." And so he came in and sat down, and just as sure as I'm sitting here talking to you, he would start rattling off mistakes that I made. And what I would do, I had an 8.5 by 11 sheet that I'd fill out, and I'd take notes from all counseling sessions and put it into a file so that I could remind myself of the issues that they needed help with. And God, through Bible study and early morning time, prayer time, quiet time, he would reveal the answers through the scriptures. So anyway, he starts out with this list. Number 1, silly. Number 2, ridiculous. Number 3, you've got to be kidding. But I'm writing them down. I'm listening carefully to him. He has a right to do that. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, he says something that absolutely pierces my heart. And I'm sitting there, and I write it down, and I circle it. Man, he hit me right between the eyes. Now, the truth is, I didn't let him know it because I still have pride, you know. So I circled that point and then finished up the session. I guess he felt better. I don't know. I allowed him to do it as long as you talk to me in a good spirit, and you may have a bad spirit, but a good presentation of it. And you and I are going to be fine. But don't come in and lean on my desk, start hollering at me. Don't do that, because that's not going to fly. But so he'd leave, and I'd get on my knees and say, "Dear God, please help me to remember not to do that stupid thing again." And so did I need to see him? Yes. Did he need to see me? Yes. Was there any good that came out of it? A critic and who critiques doesn't grow. Some can take criticism and then decide to make some alterations, some change. That guy's going to grow. But if all you want to do is just dismantle somebody that's over you and point out all the wrong they've done, then you'll never get a chance to see the wrong that you've done. So with that in mind, that little story behind, let me give you some thoughts here. Cantankerous church members. Number 1, your church is a body made up of different members. A local church is a body. There's no such thing as an invisible church body. There's no such thing as an invisible body. No such thing at all. And there's no such thing as one big body. No, there are local bodies. We are the espoused bride for Jesus. Now hold it, espoused. There has to be a wedding before there can be a bride, before there can be a groom. That's going to have to happen after the rapture. You got that? Okay. Now every local church is a body. My wife was a visible bride. I was a visible groom. I'm much more of a visible groom now after all these years, but so visible. The Baptist church is always taught, always believed from Scripture, the very word ecclesia, a called out body of baptized believers. And so we come out from the world Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, or if it's Thursday night, whenever your meeting is. That's what a church does. And it's an assembling, not an assembly. The Scripture does not say assembly. It says that we bring ourselves together in an assembling, which means each of us are to bring something that the other doesn't have, and it's supposed to be, according to Ephesians chapter 4, jointly fit together. And that's the intention of a local church. Now, so your church, I'm heading somewhere, so don't leave me now. Your church is a body made up of different members. All right, number 2, each member is placed there with a purpose. We're fitly joined together. Now, this is going to shock you. Judas was chosen. So you have to understand that there are tares and there are wheat. God never told us to separate the two. Never told us that. No, he didn't. Didn't tell us to. At the rapture, there'll be a separation. But we're not to do that. Now, we have to go around and say, well, I think that church member is unsaved. I think that one's saved. So no, you don't do that. God will use the tares just like he used Nebuchadnezzar. He said, Nebuchadnezzar, my servant, a wicked man, a terrible, fierce army that he led. But God said, a servant. Nebuchadnezzar, my servant. All right? So I said, number 1, your church body is made up of different members. Number 2, each member is placed there with a purpose. Judas had a purpose, so every member is there for a purpose. Number 3, all members are just as much a part of that body as you are. So no one has a place that's higher, separate. We're all in together. So that body cannot function unless we're all, every part of that body's together. So whatever position you hold in that local body, you have as much right to be there as the cantankerous church member does. All right, let's back up. Number 1, your church is a body made up of different members according to the Scripture. Number 2, each member is placed there with a purpose. I can't play the piano. I can't play the organ. I used to lead singing. My wife and I used to sing specials. My voice is just shot because of all the preaching all these years. And I can't do it now. I can't carry a tune in a basket. I don't know where that came from. But anyway, each member is placed there with a purpose. Number 3, all members are just as much a part of the body as you are. Number 4, we make mistakes because we begin to believe God made a mistake. Listen carefully. We make mistakes because all of a sudden we begin to think God made a mistake. That guy shouldn't be in this church. This guy or gal shouldn't be in there. Now, there may be people that you like and people you dislike, but you're commanded to love everybody. Now, please understand that you make a terrible mistake when you spend all your time trying to figure out who the tares are and who the wheat is. If you spend all your time doing that, then you're not going to get anything done for God. It's just like the word motive. The word motive is not even found in the Bible. I had an assistant pastor one time. He said, it takes me 3 hours in the morning to get my heart right before I can go to work. And I told him, well, I think I'll deduct 3 hours of pay. If that's what it's going to take. Do that on your own time. Wally Beebe, the great man of the bus ministry and kept the bus ministry alive in America. He's in heaven now. I pastored his in-laws in Illinois. But he walked in one day down in Florida. He was pastoring a church and running bus news at the same time. And he walked in, one of the secretaries laying on the floor just bawling. And so he stepped out by the door and thought, well, my goodness. And then he thought for a minute, well, man, I better go back in there. Maybe she fell or something. So opened the door, walked back in. She's still laying on the floor, just her fist just pounding the floor and crying. He reached out and said, called her name, said, are you all right? She said, yeah, I'm all right. I'm just praying. He said, get up. He said, you're fired. He said, you pray on your own time. When you come to work for me, you work. You pray on your own time, not my time. And I thought, remember that. And he said, would you have fired her? I'm not saying I would have. I just like the story. So cantankerous means argumentative, uncooperative. And so cantankerous church members, that's the subject. Number 1, Your church is a body made up of different members. Number two, each member is placed there with a purpose. Number three, all members are just as much a part of the body as you are. Number four, we make mistakes because we begin to believe God made a mistake. The tares and the wheat are there. It's not your job to separate them, not your job to do it at all. All right, number five, everybody needs a heel or an uncomely part. Everybody needs a heel. That's a part of it, or an uncomely part. Now, if you have some church members uncooperative and argumentative and so on and so forth, they may look to you like an uncomely part. They may look to you like a heel, but God allowed them to be there. To humble you, I don't know. Maybe that was it. I don't know. To tell you things you'd not tell yourself, I don't know. It's people are funny. But I know this, they have as much right to be there as you do. God's the one's going to separate the tares and the wheat. You're not supposed to do that. No, God will do that. All right, number six. These members, these members that we have will tell you things you'll not tell yourself. That's why you need preachers. You need preaching. You need somebody to tell you what you will not tell yourself. I go to the doctor. The doctor, one time I went in, the doctor said, Pastor, have you thought about a low-fat diet? And I said, no. I said, all my fat's low. I don't think about a low-fat diet. And she said to me, well, you need to get over here and get on a scale. And I thought, my goodness, I don't need to get on a scale. I hate scales. I hate weighing. I was 11 pounds when I was born. It's been trouble ever since. And she said, no, Pastor, you got to get on a scale before we can have this physical. And so I said, if you got one for my right leg, one for my left leg, I'll get on there. Said, have you ever thought about a low-fat diet? I wanted to say to her, have you ever thought about plastic surgery? But anyway, everybody needs a heel or an uncomely part. These members will tell you what you will not tell yourself. They're brazen. They're uncooperative. They're argumentative. And they'll blurt something out. But pay attention, because the Shimei was throwing everything he could at David. And somebody wanted to cut him up. And David was leaving his throne. And he said, no, you leave Shimei alone. He said, I think God sent him. And these people that are argumentative, uncooperative, that look, tares and wheat are in your church. That's all there is to it. It's there. And I'm not saying everybody's uncooperative or argumentative is that tare. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying you have those kind of church members and probably possibly friends in the church. So realize that God allowed that to happen so that they'll tell you things you not tell yourself. Number seven, give them the same access to you as anybody. If you're the pastor and they come say, I want to see you, give them equal access. Now, I have to be perfectly honest with you. There were some people on Sunday night that when the secretary would say, we used to have a little sheet of paper, and they would write on the reason they were having the meeting. If it had to do with school tuition, I would send them to the financial department. But of other questions, I'd look at it, and I would think for a second about it, and then I'd have them come in. Now, there were some people I hated to see, not because I didn't love them, not because I didn't care for them, but they just wasted my time. If they'd have listened to the sermons I've been preaching, the Bible studies, they wouldn't be asking the question, but they have that right. So they need to have as much access to you as those who are cooperative and those who are not argumentative. Give them access to you. It's fair, it's right, and that's why you're there. Doctors are not to see the people who are healthy. He sees the people who are sick. And you need to allow them, those who are spiritually struggling, to come see you, even though they may be argumentative, even though they may be uncooperative, as long as they don't act like an idiot. And I had a guy come in one time and leaned on the desk and just I was sitting in my chair. He just started at me. So I very quietly got up and said, you'll have to leave. I didn't holler back at him. I said, you just have to leave. We're not going to start out this way. Now, if you want to come back next week and you want to talk to me calmly, I'll be glad to talk. You can't get anything done that way. But they have as much right to come see me, but that doesn't mean I allow that disrespect. All right. And then number 8, soul winning will bring purpose to all. Soul winning will bring purpose to all the people. You get everybody go soul winning. I would suggest, and I've done this, you get that cantankerous church member and say, will you go soul with me Thursday? Get the person that's uncooperative, say, look, would you go soul with me? because I really believe, Brother House taught us this, but I believe that going soul winning gives us common ground, and God will use it to tenderize the heart and bring you together for the very purpose of why you're there. And that's to win souls, keep people out of hell. That's why you're there. All right, let's back up. The subject, unusual, cantankerous. I'll give you 10 points if you can spell it right. Cantankerous church members. That's the subject. All right. Your church, number one, is a body with different members, made up of different members. Number two, each member is placed there with a purpose. Tares and wheat, God allowed it to happen with a purpose. Number three, all members are as much a part of the body as you are. Because they have a little, everybody has a bad day. Don't take a bad day and say that's the nature of that guy. That's just not true. I've got a horrible temper. And I have to constantly keep it in check. I do. We were going to Tyler with my wife, taking my wife down to the hospital on Tyler, and a woman cut me off, and I floorboarded that caddy and got up beside her. I bet that power went down. I fixed to give her a piece of my mind. My wife said, "Honey, don't do that. They may be church members." I hate a spiritual woman, and she said, "And they think we're Christians." So we all have it. We just got to suppress it, hold it down. Your church is a body made up of different members. Number two, each member is placed there with a purpose. Number three, all members are just as much a part of that body as you are. Number four, we make mistakes because we begin to believe God made a mistake. Judas was chosen. Remind yourself. Everybody needs a heel or an uncomely part. Number six, these members will tell you what you will not tell yourself. Number seven, give the same access to them as you do others. Give them the same access. You may get a sermon thought out of it. You may get a Bible study series out of it. God's trying to give you something. He's trying to force feed you, but you need to pay attention. Then last point, soul winning brings a purpose to all. Common denominator, keeping people out of hell. That's why we're here. And that can overcome and overwhelm those things that are just picky. And it's going to happen. If it hadn't happened, it will happen. It's 48 years of ministry. I'm telling you, it will happen. Well, thank you for being a part of Ministry Moments. Subscribe now, Ministry Moments YouTube, and subscribe. That way you'll get this every week, Friday, 3 o'clock Central Time. Not long, abbreviated, but I believe it'll have a good point to it and be of help to you. Now, you've got soul winning tomorrow. You make sure you win somebody to Christ, and you be that soul winner that you ought to be. That'll put a lot of this stuff, cover it up and get it out of the way. But anyway, you can go to solvechurchproblems.com, subscribe there. You'll get a daily ministry idea. You'll get my sermons back to 1980. We started putting those on that website. And my voice is a little higher, but still saying the same thing. We went back to the very first Sunday in 1980 and put those on that solvechurchproblems.com. So you have access to it. You can kind of grow with us as we grew back in those days, and as God blessed. And the last one I think they put up was the 1st of January, 1981. So we're moving into 1981. And so just go to solvechurchproblems.com, sign up for it, subscribe. Ministry Moments YouTube, sign up for that. God bless you. Thank you for being a part of Ministry Moments. Now you join me next week now, and we'll have a great time together. God bless you.